Shalom, shalom, Salakia. Storage got full. But where I left off at was Proverbs 24 and 21. When you saw the example of how, Nate was breaking down the names of the Lord perfectly to the point where, he was bringing down Yahweh, Yahweh Shai's name. Then you saw how he was going back to Christ, and now you can call the Lord whatever you want, man. That's another thing and another sign that you got to look out for when it comes to a false prophet. Okay? Because what does scripture say? 30 and 34. Like Proverbs 30 and 34. I'm sorry, 30 and 4. Who had ascended up to into heaven or descended? Who hath gathered the winds in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in the garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name and what is his son's name, if thou can tell? And he had that, and that's another thing, man. I think low key, it's either, I'm not gonna say that the Lord took the name away from him, but I'm gonna say, man, this is really for the bag. He sold out to the bag, man. And that just goes to show how deep the hypocrisy is. When you get into Romans the 2nd chapter, it talks about the hypocrites. This man is doing it for the money, doing it for the bag, being a hypocrite, and it's gonna come to a point where that's gonna fall, man. Let's Matthew grab it. To 23. That's a good one. Matthew 23 and 29, woe to them, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. But that's not the one I was looking for. Here we go. This is the point is Matthew 23 in verse I just had it. It's 12. Yep, 12. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he shall humble himself. And he that humble himself shall be exalted. Now, we've seen examples like when he was sick, but it's coming to a point where you're going to see the transition of, okay, he's up there because he is a household name in the Israelite community. But seeing, and you have the spiritual eye to see and spiritual ear to listen, you're going to notice that the shift of, the IUIC is not exactly according to scriptures, man. And it was just so much that was going off, man. It's like, it's not that hard. Like, you really, and that's why, Elder Apostle Gabar always say to us, he always say, man, have, discernment. Discernment does got to come from the Lord. But as a man, that's our job to distinguish, from right and wrong, from wickedness to righteousness. Okay? You know, so we got to have that discernment to see these things, who's of Yahweh Shai and who's not. Okay? Because like I said, you know, what I was saying, all that changing up, the confusion, the Lord is not an author of confusion. And let me grab Malachi real fast. Malachi 3 and 6. And it says, "For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." You know, and that's just beautiful. You know, the Lord he's going to give us, when he gives us a sincere teacher, a sincere prophet, you know, we know we in good straits. First off, you got to believe that the Lord is not a liar and he's going to do everything that he said in the scriptures. So, yeah, he's going to put out prophets. He's going to put out false prophets. We got beautiful prophets. We got Elder Apostle Tahar, you know, beginning Abba Bivens on down, Elder Apostle Tahar, Elder Apostle Gabar, Elder Apostle Ramla, Elder Apostle Rakah, giving them the respective titles for the labor and doctrine that they put in. But again, when the scribes and Pharisees, when the disciples came into Yahweh Shai and they was asking the times to see when you're coming back, you know, he was like, yo, rumors of war, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, and false prophets, man. So I'm going to grab 2 more scriptures. I want to get Jude 1 and grab it. I believe it's 18 or 16. Yeah, 18. This is Jude 1 and 18. It says, "How that they told you there should be mockers in the last time, who should walk after their own ungodly lust." And I'm seeing how Nate conducts himself. Planes, jets, donate. We gotta go across, you know, going to country to preach to the cannibals, so on and so forth. The Lord didn't tell you to do that, man. The internet gives us the heavy lifting to help preach the word. Then, you know, when you get into the scriptures, when it says there should be mockers, that's getting into basically a false prophet in the New Testament. And how Nate's looking, man, it's just nothing but confusion, bro. Just to keep it a buck with you. And then he says something like, oh, and this would like blew my mind. Because you see, like him and the congregation is getting into the MOTB and actually saying that it is the CHIP, the micro, RFID chip. Okay? But, you know, he made a statement that said, the scriptures don't tell you that. And that just goes to show you're hiding the vibration, or you don't know the vibration of the scriptures. When you get into the New Testament, Yahweh Shai was speaking in hella parables. So I'm going to grab this one and we'll end it off on that. This is Psalms 78. And this is one of my favorite scriptures to go to, because a lot of people just think the scriptures is going to talk to you and just give you the answers without really seeking and do your research. All right, this is Psalm 78. And let's start at 1. It says, "Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth." Verse 2 is the point. It says, "And I will open my mouth in a parable, and I will utter dark sayings of old." And like you said, when you look at parables, you know, to compare and contrast, but when it says dark sayings, it gets into riddles. You know, dark sayings, but the main thing was riddles. One thing that Elder Apostle Tahar, when he brought that scripture out, it was another brother on the opposite side, and he was breaking it down, Elder Apostle Tahar. He was saying if it was just like, that's how the Lord got to talk. If it was just so-called black and white, they will outlaw the scriptures. All right, Nate, so You can't say that shit. That's some BS, man. You leave. I feel like it's not my place to really say, but man, just hey, open rebuke is better than serious love. Man, that's you about to lead a lot of your people to the slaughter. And like I said, there's gonna be some people in your congregation that's gonna be of the elect. They might wake up and be like, "Yo, this ain't right." You know, and that goes for GMS too. You might we don't know, like we ain't gonna be all people the members of GMS. We not gonna know if we gonna be of that number. But like when we say you got a congregation that is full of quantity. You got a lot of members, but the Lord ain't looking for that. He's looking for quality, all right? But nevertheless, I hope this video was edifying. You know, exhorting to the sincere brothers and sincere sheep. And I want to close out. I want to give all honor, glory, and praises due to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. And again, double honors to the elders and apostles, that great millstones teaching truth and sincerity, and also who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. I want to close out, say shalom, and on to the next lesson.